Hello, and in today's video, I want to go ahead and cover exactly a question that I get very often from home care agencies that I speak to all the time. Is my marketing actually working? And how can I tell whether it's affecting my bottom line? Right? And that's exactly what we're going to be going over in this video. And so, real quick, just go ahead and drive the point home very early on. If you can't measure it, you can't fix it. Right? And so, of course, the question that we're going to be answering today is, are you measuring what's working when you market your agency, right? Because, of course, marketing is the lifeblood of any new revenue in your home care agency. Without marketing, you're not getting any clients. Without any new clients, you're not growing as an agency. You're not increasing your revenue, etc. Okay, so real quick, let's dive into some of these concepts here to ultimately drive the point home and exactly tell you what KPIs you should be looking at, especially when it comes to your marketing. Okay, so of course, as you know, in the client's journey, it isn't just from stranger to client, right? There's multiple steps in between that in order for them to go ahead and become eventually a client, right? And even refer you. So a way we want to go ahead and measure that, okay, is going to be using a funnel. Now, a funnel is simply a pathway of the client's journey that involves multiple steps before they become a client, right? So before they even know you exist, okay, they're a stranger, of course. And at some point during the process of maybe looking at other providers or talking to a social worker, whatever the situation might be, eventually they'll go ahead and inquire, whether that's through a third party, like a social worker, or that is themselves. Okay, so they'll go from stranger to inquiry. Then from inquiry, that's when they'll go ahead and go through a process of maybe either looking at different providers or simply reaching out to go ahead and do an assessment, right? So they'll go from inquiry to assessment. From there, an assessment to enrollment. You go into their house, you do the assessment, you go in home, and again, you go ahead and enroll them as a client. From there, of course, we don't want to stop there. Part of the client's journey is them being satisfied, greatly satisfied, overly satisfied with your service, and of course, eventually referring you, right? As we know, word of mouth referrals are a huge part of marketing when it comes to your home care agency. And so it looks something like this, right? And I went ahead and created this little model here just to emphasize how important marketing is. Okay, if you're not doing enough marketing, whether that's in person or online, you're simply not going to be reaching any people at all. And what do you think happens when you go ahead and you're not reaching enough strangers? Okay, this is what happens. Okay, this part shrinks right here, and as a result, everything else shrinks. Boom, this gets smaller, everything gets smaller. So without you reaching enough people, you're simply, you're not going to get enough inquiries, you're not going to get enough assessments, you're not going to get enough clients, etc. Okay. Now, of course, and at the same, each step of the process, if you're not converting enough highly, right? Let's say you are reaching a lot of strangers, but maybe you're having a process, a difficulty, for example, getting enough people to actually inquire. There's something wrong with the messaging. There's something wrong with marketing. And at every stage, it's going to tell you something different, right? If you're getting, let's say, a lot of leads, but you're not able to convert a lot of them into assessments, maybe the leads aren't qualified, or maybe you're not calling the leads fast enough, or you're not able to pick up the phone when the leads do call, right? Or any referral partners in that case. And so each step of this process is going to involve different methodologies to ultimately solve the issue and get your client pipeline flowing as seamless as possible, right? And that's essentially what we want to do. We want to plug in certain key data points in order to see, hey, what is the problem here in this whole funnel here? What is the problem that I'm facing? How can I fix it so that we can ensure we're hitting our right numbers every single month, every single quarter, every single year? So let's get into exactly those KPIs. Okay, starting with just these quick top four, and then as you see here, we're going to go over each one very much in detail. Okay, so the 4 KPIs we ultimately want to measure is stranger to inquiry rate, okay, inquiry to assessment rate, assessment to enrollment rate, and enrollment to referral rate. And then I'm going to talk about what metrics you're going to be ultimately tracking here. Now, in case you don't know, KPIs is key performance indicators. These are going to be really the big data or the big numbers you're going to be tracking to know how efficient is your pipeline flowing, how busy it is, how much volume there is, the quality of it, right? All these different numbers. And so let's start with the first one. You're gonna get a gist of it as we get into it. So let's start with the first one, which is the first KPI, stranger to inquiry. Okay, this metric right here is easily trackable using online marketing methods, right? But it's definitely still possible to track this when you're doing in person. Okay, now when it's in person, okay, it's very hard, I would say, to track how many leads, say for example, or rather how to properly check to see if this is correct. Let's say when you have an in-person marketer go, say, to a nursing home or a rehab center, right? And specifically, who did they talk to, right? Did they talk to a referral partner? Did they talk directly to, say, an individual that could potentially need home care services, right? You would basically trust them to make sure their numbers are as transparent as possible. But of course, that is still better than not tracking anything, right? You still want to have that happen. So you can have them say how many people they actually spoke to, and then how many of those numbers say that did they collect, right? So that would technically be an inquiry. When it comes to online marketing, it's very much more easier and transparent to go ahead and track this, right? And so, for example, let's say you're doing something like Google ads or Facebook ads, right? You can easily see what it costs you for each lead or what it costs you for each click. Okay, so that's very transparent. You can see that, and what this tells you is the efficiency. Okay, obviously the cheaper this is, that means the more your ad is performing and is resonating with your clients, and of course, with your leads, and that makes it efficient. Okay, lead volume, of course, how many you're getting per marketing channel. So whether that's Facebook, whether that's Google, whether that's any other type of social media, what is the volume that you're seeing? And then of course, lastly, you want to do something like a lead quality score. Okay, so you typically we recommend our clients to do it 1 through 4, right? And you can set certain criteria. You can do how many hours are they asking, what's their zip code, all these different kind of criteria, and then obviously evaluate the lead quality score. For example, 4 could be a 24-hour private pay patient, right? Or if you're a Medicaid only, right, it can be under certain different criteria, right? You can create that for yourself, but I definitely recommend creating kind of like a sheet, distributing it to your team. So whoever is in charge of this or reporting their own numbers, they'll be able to go ahead and quickly calculate, based off certain parameters, what exactly this lead quality is. And the reason we want to track these 3 is because you have efficiency, you have volume, and you have quality, right? With these 3 things, if you're efficient, if you have a high amount of volume, and if you have the right type of leads coming in, you're going to grow no problem. That's definitely no problem. So that's a reason why we want to go ahead and be tracking all these things, okay? Now, some common bottlenecks you'll see at this stage, right, that we spoke about earlier, right here, right, from stranger to inquiry, is going to be, okay, let's say, for example, if you're doing online, right, poor landing page conversion, right? So let's say somebody clicks on your ad, they'll go to, say, a page, maybe either on your website or another page, right? If, let's say, you're getting a lot of clicks, you're getting a lot of people actually going on the website, but a lot of people are getting off it, they're not submitting forms, they're not calling in, well, then that probably means that it could be potentially, not attracting the right people, right? And that leads to another thing, which is unclear messaging. Maybe the person's confused about, what exactly they are supposed to do. This is where you need to make it very clear on creating an appropriate call to action, right? And it looks something like this, right? So we have a client in Connecticut, okay? Here, this is pretty much where, this is an example of a landing page, right? If you notice here, is very... there's literally only one thing you can do on this web page. There's not a services page, there's not an about us page. The only thing here, okay, is that they can see, what services they offer, how it is to go ahead and contact them, okay, maybe even a little review or kind of a comment you want to say to them. But if you notice, the only thing they can do here is either submit a form and go ahead and give you a call. Okay, so you make it very clear on what the next step is supposed to be. If it's a lot of scattered information, it's not quick for them to, they don't need 30 minutes to just, 30 seconds to just go ahead and consume all this and then make their action, then it's probably, there's probably something wrong with the landing page. And then again, you want to make sure the messaging is clear. And of course, other signs for this, let's say you're not getting enough actual quality leads coming in, right? Then you might be targeting the wrong audience, right? Maybe, people are confusing you for, let's say, home renovation services instead of home care services. Okay, so you want to make sure at each step of this, right, especially if you're doing something, say, online, all these different things are being checked for, right? And you can see what these bottlenecks are by tracking each metric. Each metric will tell you something in relation to one of these. Again, quick wins to go ahead and improve this stage right here, right? The higher the stranger to inquiry rate, right? That means the people that you are talking to that have never heard of your company, when you do introduce yourself, they are very much interested. So you're reaching the right people and you're convincing them properly to go ahead and inquire, right? To want to learn more, to potentially have you as their provider. So quick wins, A/B test. A/B test just means, getting comparing one with the other and ultimately seeing if what would work the best. Okay. Then you can go ahead and do the offers. Okay, you can also compare different offers. Maybe you have, say, for example, a special offer that you're doing. You can go ahead and have that stand out from your competition, as well as just, of course, optimizing landing pages, making them as simple, direct as possible to go ahead and make them as efficient, right? Reducing your cost per click or reducing your cost per lead. Awesome. So that's going to be the first KPI. Again, you can track this both online and in person, and I recommend you track these three metrics right here. So the next KPI is going to be inquiry to assessment, okay? This pretty much is going to reveal how well your intake team converts the inquiries into scheduled assessments, okay? So this is also a big thing. You know, I do hear a lot of home care agencies, they tell me, hey, Elias, you know, I have trouble on the phone just because, you know, I'm not a salesperson. You know, I just used to be a nurse. Listen, I completely understand. And there's certain things that we can do here to improve this right here, okay? So definitely metrics to track. Call answer rate. I'm telling you, you can convert a lot more leads when you pick up the phone more often, okay? There's some home care agencies that I see that they're not as serious as they should be about this. You know, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to answer more than 90% of the calls that do come through your office, right? Again, because that could be a potential lead. And if they're calling in, typically it means that they've already gone through a bunch of other competitors. They've looked at yours and they decided to go ahead and give you a shot to potentially be their provider. So again, you're going to close more. You're going to close more just by picking up the phone more. So definitely track call answer rate. Then you can do a percentage of the calls converted into assessments, right? Out of all the calls you did answer, how many of those converted into assessments? Okay. And then finally, you can do this on a per team member basis, right? So if you have, say, Sally and you have June, both answering the calls, who is performing the best, right? Who has the better call answer rate? Who has the better percentage of calls converted into assessments, right? That way, you could potentially delegate this off, right, later on to one of them instead, and, you know, have, you know, them answer the calls more because they're converting more calls into assessments. So those are going to be the metrics you want to track. Then common bottlenecks you'll go ahead and see here, right, is maybe somebody has poor phone skills, right? Again, maybe they should be assigned to different roles instead of picking up the phone, right? And you can easily see that if, say, for example, the call answer rate, it's really bad. Like they're only picking up 20% of the calls that come in. That's obviously, you know, I mean, you're missing out on 80% of business there. That's something you can easily fix to what, 4x your business. So, you know, simply by increasing that, you're going to easily get more, you're going to get more assessments, you're going to get more inquiries, you're going to get more clients. Okay. Then you also see here a lack of structured sales process. You want to make sure whoever's in charge of picking up the phones, there is a structured place in mind. Okay. And I'm going to get into exactly the things that we can go ahead and do to improve this KPI. But definitely you need a structured sales process. And then lastly, of course, failure to communicate the value of an assessment, right? Especially if it's private pay. You know, you need to kind of convince them, hey, you know, we're going to be the right provider. And on top of that, we would love to get a chance to go ahead and see you in your home to give you the best care plan that we can. Okay, you need to communicate some aspect of that because, of course, you're pretty much selling yourself, right? If it's Medicaid, you know, it's not much selling you need to do. You know, you just need to make sure you get into the assessment, right? Because the most difficult part of this whole client journey is actually getting into the client's house. Okay, that's the biggest issue. So some quick wins to go ahead and improve this KPI. We want to go ahead and implement a script. Okay, this is not necessarily something they're supposed to recite line by line, but a general guideline, right, of certain questions they should be asking. So you want to have this in place, right? This would help with creating structure in that because this is technically part of the sales process, convincing them that you are the right provider. Okay, so definitely implement a script focused on qualifying and scheduling assessments. You need to make sure, one, they're qualified, and second, obviously have a guideline on how they should schedule the assessment. Train staff on handling objections, especially when it comes to private pay. You're going to have some objections, right? Oh, what's the price? You know, why is it maybe more expensive? Why is it this? Why is it that? You know, can you do this for my mom? This and that, right? You need to make sure that you train your staff so that they're able to go ahead and handle this properly and convert more of these calls into assessments. And of course, lastly, record the calls so that you can go ahead and train them on this, right? If you're able to record the calls, say once a week, you meet them at the end of the week or at the beginning of next week, hear, say 2 or 3 of their calls, right? And be able to go ahead and continuously help them and improve them until they get to a certain point where the metrics make sense, right? They're answering most of their calls And of course, they're converting a majority of their calls into assessments. That's how you know you've reached a peak sales process in this KPI. Okay. Again, and a tip, you can have team members submit an end of day report using a form to collect this type of information, right? You can have, say, maybe in your call system, right? If you have one, you can see exactly how many calls did they pick up, and then how many of those calls that they did pick up, how many of those converted to assessments. You can have that as part of an end of day report. This should take maximum 2 minutes for them to go ahead and fill out. And then at the end of the week, you can have, say, something like on Google Sheets, and create a chart and kind of see what went wrong, say, on Tuesday, how come they performed so well on Thursday, and then start helping train them and be able to see like, hey, let's go ahead and let's fix this. You're doing great here. Let's keep doing this. Okay. So that's going to be for the second KPI. Okay. You want to go ahead and track those metrics and make sure you're always checking on these bottlenecks. Okay. KPI number 3. Okay. Assessment to enrollments. This measures how effectively your intake team converts assessments into clients. Okay. Metrics to track here. How many assessments were actually, let's say that were scheduled, how many of them did you actually go and perform the assessment, right? Go into their house and do the in-home assessment. The percentage of assessments converted. So when you did go into their house, how many of those actually converted? Reasons for non-conversion. This is super important. Was it something on your team? Was it, maybe an emergency? You want to be able to track these things to be able to know, is it the team, or is it maybe the leads that we're talking to, right? Again, a lot of this goes back to your marketing. If you're attracting the right people, the process should be seamless. But if, say, for example, maybe you got a bad lead, you can for sure be able to tell, hey, is my marketing doing right? Because, say, for example, the reason this person didn't convert was because, say that, their finances wasn't right, say, for example. And so, that could either be a problem on the salesperson that didn't show value for the actual the service, or it could have been that the person who actually scheduled the assessment didn't communicate that properly, right? Or even that the marketing, it's attracting low finances people, right? So maybe we need to go ahead and target a different area, a higher end area, right? So there's different things that it will tell you this, and you want to make sure you're tracking it. And then, of course, you want to do this on a per team member basis, especially you have more than one person handling the intake. You want to make sure who is, pretty much driving the most revenue, right? Who's converting the most. Now, common bottlenecks you'll see here: poor assessment preparation. You want to make sure they have all their materials, they have all their talking points, they have, the background that they need to know, the information that somebody spoke to on the inquiry, so they can come super prepared. Okay. Of course, you also want to make sure that they have also a script. Now, they're not going to read it while they're talking to the person, but, they need to be trained on this, right? So definitely for sure, also a structured sales process, and make sure that, they're able to go ahead and address any objections, especially in person. There's no reason why, you shouldn't close easily in person. Okay, in person is the easiest and the highest rate you're going to close. You can easily close around 70 to 90% of your calls, 70 being pretty low. Typically, you'll see anywhere 90% in this industry. So you should be able to close. And of course, inadequate follow-up. Sometimes some people need to think, right? And that's totally fine, right? They need to go ahead and maybe reach another guardian decision maker. It's super, super important that you follow up, okay? And make sure you have this person who went on the assessment to go ahead and follow up with them, okay? The money is made in the follow-up. So quick wins to improve this KPI: create a pre-assessment information packet, whether that is for the actual intake team or that is for the family that you're going to visit, okay? You want to go ahead and develop a structured assessment process and train the team, how I mentioned earlier, okay? The more structured this is, the more they're trained on it, the more you're going to convert, and the more clients you're going to bring on, the more referrals you're going to get, the more revenue you're going to get, etc. And then, of course, implement follow-up procedures. Okay, make sure that no leads slip through the crack. There's no reason, if you already went to their home and you checked them out and they actually liked you, there's no reason why you shouldn't be able to close that client. Not at all. There's no reason why another provider should come in, right? Or you should let another provider come in and potentially take that client from you. Okay, so definitely not. And then, of course, let's go ahead and move on to the fourth KPI and the final KPI: enrollment to referral. This measures your client satisfaction, how much they love your service, and your team's ability to generate referrals from existing clients. Super, super important. Listen, it is, I can't say enough. The best marketers are not going to be the ones that you pay. It's going to be the ones that you actually service, which is your clients. Your clients are the ones that are directly experiencing your service. And trust me, word of mouth referral is 1,000 times better than a random stranger talking to somebody who needs your service. Okay, they're gonna be able obviously if the person knows, let's say it's a friend, they're gonna trust that person 1,000 times more than a random in-person marketer. So definitely, this is a super important KPI to track, and just goes to show, let's say out of all our clients, what percentage of them are actually referring us? Why can't we get that percentage higher, etc. So let's go ahead and dive into that. Metrics to track here. Client satisfaction scores. So you can easily run a survey, right? Whether that is in person with the caregivers, you can just, have them do maybe you can just have them do, 2-3 question, very multiple choice answer, very quick. It should take 30 seconds to get an answer. Their satisfaction scores. Okay. You can either do this in person, or you can do this by emailing them or texting them. Okay. You want to also do a referral ask rate. Okay. A referral ask rate is how out of all your clients, how many of those referrals are you asking, right? Are you asking all your clients? Are you asking only 50% of your clients? Are you only asking 20% of your clients? Obviously, you want to have this 100%, right? There's no reason why you shouldn't be asking all your clients. And then finally, what is the referral conversion rate? So after you do ask them, how many of them actually take up and refer you? Okay, super important. This is gonna basically show you again, an idea of client satisfaction. And of course, how much how much are they able to go ahead and refer you over? Okay, so of course, there's definitely very steps of ways you can to go ahead and increase that conversion rate. Very common bottlenecks you'll see here: inconsistent service quality. If it's inconsistent, you have one great caregiver, but then you have maybe an all right or not so good caregiver coming to go ahead and take care of that client. It can be inconsistent, right? Which can lead to frustrations. And that is something that definitely needs to be cleared up. Okay. The number one thing, you need to have great quality care of service if you want referrals to come anyway. So that'll be one. Now, if your service, it's A1, you have no inconsistencies, everybody's trained properly, then probably the next thing you want to go ahead and make sure is you have a systematic referral request process. Hey, after a month when the client enrolls and, they're already feeling better, or when they hit the certain milestone, okay, so, hey, mom has been feeling better. She's been actually being able to walk. She's doing this and this and that. Right then and there, you can ask for a referral request. Okay, you want to be able to identify these different stages, not even before they become a client, but also after they become a client, right? When would it be a good time to ask for a referral? When, of course, they're feeling the best, they're loving the service, they're loving the care they're getting. Great time to go ahead and ask for a referral. And you want to be able to identify that process and train your team on it. And then, of course, another common bottleneck is poor timing of referral requests, right? Again, I mentioned the timing aspect of it, but also the systematic process of it. Okay, how are you going to ask? What type of things are you going to say, right? That's what I mean by systematic, as well as the timing also matters, when they're also feeling good. Now, finally, some quick wins you can to go ahead and improve the overall KPI, right? From all the clients you do have, how many of them are referring you, right? This KPI right here. Quick wins you can do: implement a satisfaction survey, okay, at these certain key milestones, right? So when they first sign up, how was the onboarding process? When, they're a month in, how are they feeling? How is it with their new caregiver? All these different kind of milestones that you can kind of create. And again, you don't have to overwhelm your clients with this as in doing one every week, but you can definitely do one every, month and a half, 2 months, just depending on you can be able to gauge just how much they're doing or how well they feel about the quality of service. Next, create a referral request program, okay, or a system behind it, right, that I mentioned. What and when and how they can go ahead and do that. If you'd like to learn more about that, you can check out my other videos here. And, I definitely do post about how you can go ahead and best ask for these referrals, as well as train your team to identify these referral opportunities. You can potentially even pay your caregivers, right? Say, for example, if they were able to get a successful referral from a client, you can go ahead and pay them, right? It'd be like almost like a commission. So they can even act as your sales rep, right? Because definitely, you'll have more of these caregivers out than you will have sales reps, right? Or even care coordinators. You can even do that with your care coordinators, right? So just kind of whoever will have, you think will have the highest success rate to go ahead and be able to get these referrals, okay? But beautiful. And just so you can remember this, right? This isn't something, asking for referrals isn't something you don't have to just do once and that's it, right? People always meet new people. Circumstances change. Maybe a friend that they knew was totally fine, but maybe they kind of, unfortunately, they start needing home care. Okay, so and then that's where you can come in. Okay, so this is something that you can routinely do, say every 3 months, every 6 months. You can go ahead and ask for a referral. They might know somebody. So anyway, those are going to be the 4 main KPIs you're going to want to go ahead and track. This is pretty much going to give you the best idea of from stranger to inquiry to assessment to enrollment to referral. Okay, and then now let's lastly go over an implementation plan on how you can go ahead and set this up for yourself to be able to start tracking. Okay, so number one, you definitely want to be able to audit what are you currently already tracking, right? So you might have a CRM, right? You might already have a software that you're using that can maybe be tracking already some of this stuff already for you. You already need to be able to assess and be able to check to see what tools are you already using and start kind of gauging these metrics you're already tracking. Okay, and so once you go ahead and do that audit, you already know the numbers you're tracking and the numbers you're not tracking. Then you want to go ahead and set up some type of basic tracking. This doesn't have to be something advanced. This can be something like simply on a Google Sheet, right? You can have a Google Sheet with these different metrics, and you want to report on this either on a daily or a weekly basis. Again, you can have for certain metrics here, you can have your team members submit an end of day report. You can do this, say, on a form on Google Forms. Okay, if you've never used one, you just simply go to forms.google.com, I think. And then from there, if you just go to forms, Google right here, you'll see here, you can go ahead. It's literally free. Okay, you can go ahead and easily build a form, something like this, and then people go ahead and go ahead and submit that. Okay, so you can have them submit an edit their form, report form, and you can have this linked to a Google Sheet where all that data is being tracked. On that Google Sheet, you can go ahead and then graph those certain things. Okay, very, very, very simple. It doesn't have to be super complicated, right? It can be manual in the beginning, and maybe as your team starts getting bigger, you can bring an operations person to go ahead and systemize this and make it automated, right? So for now, just set up something basic. Number 3, you want to go ahead and establish some baselines, meaning, okay, I want to be able to hit, say, a 80% close rate when it comes to in-home assessments. I want to be able to have a 95% call answer rate. You want to kind of set these baselines so that if you ever do fall below that, there's a problem there, right? This is something that needs to be addressed. There's a certain bottleneck that's preventing you from continuously pacing yourself for more and more growth. Okay, and a baseline doesn't have to be necessarily a goal. It can be, pretty much what you guys are averaging right now, right? And the next thing is going to be how can you improve those averages, right? If let's say you're averaging right now, let's say a 60% pickup rate, right? Which is, of course, ideally you should be aiming for 90% or higher. But let's say you have a 60%, right? That's just kind of the reality of it, right? You have 60%. You want to go ahead and set a goal in order to go ahead and start performing higher and higher, okay? And you can go ahead and do that. Say, hey, by next month, I want to increase this to 70%. The month after that, I want to increase this to 80%, so that every month you are seeing improvements. If you're not setting any goals, right, if you don't have kind of a target, then you're basically going to be going on so many different places. You want to be able to know where you're going so that you can go in that direction. That's kind of where the goals are set for. And then finally, go ahead and have a weekly review process. Okay, you want to be able to reflect on these, see what went right this week, what went wrong this week, and set improvement plans, whether that is for a team member or for the company as a whole, on how you can go ahead and start hitting those goals that you're setting, right? And of course, this is something really quick and easy. This shouldn't take you more than, say, a week to go ahead and get all this set up. Go ahead and audit your current tools, set up, basic tracking. You can do that with, say, in the beginning, especially you can do it manually, right? You have your team members submit an end of the day report, and you can even assign them certain metrics, okay? Set that up, establish some baselines, see what's kind of your averages currently right now. You don't have to set any goals, say, for the first week you do reporting. You want to get an idea of just kind of where you guys are at. And then, of course, from there, you can start setting goals, realistic goals, and plans to improve them. You're not just going to say, hey, let's go ahead and hit this here and just continuously doing the same thing, right? Something needs to change in order for you to go ahead and hit that goal. And then of course, setting either weekly, monthly, quarterly review process where you go ahead and review the numbers, say per team member, per metric, and see where things need to be improved on, and set plans to go ahead and fix them for the next week. So I hope this video was useful. Okay. I recommend you go back to this video kind of, as you go ahead and implementing this, you can go ahead and kind of, just go back to the video, go to that specific KPI, see what metric needs to be tracked. And even when you start experiencing some bottlenecks, you can go ahead, come back to this video, see the common bottlenecks, see the quick wins you can to go ahead and improve those KPIs. And ultimately, check out my other YouTube videos if you'd like to go ahead and see how we, in a detailed step-by-step process, improve certain different aspects, again, from all these different KPIs. Okay, I hope you guys enjoy the video. If you guys would like help with this, okay, you guys can go ahead and schedule a demo call with either me or my team, where we go ahead and go a lot more in-depth in this. And you can also check out all the other marketing systems that we built out for our other clients. I hope you guys enjoy this. Like, subscribe if you'd like to continue seeing this type of content, and I'll see you guys on the next